So you probably clicked on this video because you want to get better at iRacing. Well, luckily, there's some tips and tricks in this video to help you out. So let's jump right into the video. So number one, there's a slick on a racetrack. So let's hop in the race car and show everyone, mostly beginners. So there's a slick on dirt track, which is this video is going to be about all dirt oval tracks. So we're on the free linear speedway, and in the middle of the track, most of the time it will be in the middle, from 20% to 50% track state it is in. So this spot I'm driving in right now, you can see it is darker than most of the other dirt. That is called the slick. That's what you don't want to be in unless you very much have to. It's the slippiest part of the racetrack, needs to say. So if you're in here, it's literally just a death trap to spin out like that. It's not where you want to be on the racetrack. But obviously sometimes you'll have to run there, and it's just how it is. It's just how racing goes. So tip number one, and is an obvious tip, stay out of the slick as much as possible. You have a low line up here with a bunch of grip, and you'll have a low line at the very bottom of the racetrack right here under the slick with more grip. But the last thing you want to do is try to run the low line and end up in the slick right here, as you just slide and you get all squirrely down the front stretch and take people out. Once again, that's the last thing you want to do. Tip number two is the high line's fast. Okay, the high line is fast on all dirt tracks in the 410 sprint car. You'll see a ton of racers up on the wall, working the cushion up to the top of the wall, because when you have your back two wheels or your right two wheels in the like top of the racetrack where the marbles are, it creates sort of like a friction type thing that continues to carry speed. So at the bottom, you're gonna slide out more and lose more speed, coming out of the turn more slower, which means more spinning your tires, which means not as fast. In 5, from anywhere to 0 stack or track state to 20, you'll have less slick, so you can run the middle of the racetrack faster and keep speed up right about here, and you won't spin your tires, and it'll be a faster lap time. But tip number two is going to be the high line. So going back to the cushion, you have to have skill, needless to say, to run the high line, because the wall's right behind it. Alright, the wall's right like a couple feet from your back tire, and if you're not good and skilled at running the high line, you're just gonna run too high and catch the wall like I did. So the last thing you want to do is catch a wall. It just like completely ruins your race. You have to get towed if you end up upside down. It's just not a fun time. But the high line is the fastest line normally if you know how to run it. So practice as much as you can up high, because normally it's going to carry the most speed coming out of the turns, internally faster lap times. So tip number three. Tip number three is your car setup. So as you see, my wings all the way forward. Sorry for the camera switch. All the way forward, and that's normally how I like to run my car when I have my stagger up. So let's go take a look at my car setup right now, and we will see that the stagger is at 13 for me. It's at 13. Well, I have my front tires at 1 stagger is the highest you can go, because it carries the most speed. It helps you turn, so you carry internally more speed. Now I'm not so, smart about this chassis part. I just know how to run my wing and what works for me. Different tracks, so I'm not gonna get into gas. You kind of need to know that. But rear end ratio, depending once again on the track, you need to find it for yourself. For longer tracks, obviously more fuel. For smaller tracks, you get less. But that was really important. The wing right here. This is really, really, really important. It changes your entire car by a couple touches of a button, so that's important. And your stagger also changes a lot. Longer tracks, you don't want any more than a 13.5 stagger, or a 14 is pushing it, because going down the front stretch, it just really pulls to the inside wall. It's just really dangerous. But that's just a big part of iRacing and dirt. But we're going to focus on the 410s from now on. Tip number 4, consistency. I can't stress it enough. Consistency is very, very, very important in dirt track racing, on iRacing, especially 410s. Or any sprint car, but we're focusing on 410s. So consistency. To work on better consistency, you have a couple drill options to go over. So a couple things I can tell you is, if you have the slick on, like the track to where the slick is, run a halfway throttle right above the slick, go in the turn. Don't really see, you can look at my wheel in the beginning. This is what you don't want to do. You don't want to kind of be back and forth like this a lot, because that kind of gets you squarely out of the turn. But more than less, you need to be half throttle to practice this, half throttle, and you want to smooth into the turn, smooth wheel movement, smooth out of the turn. It might be tempting to go faster down the front stretch. Don't do it. Keep a consistent half throttle the whole way around the track. Do this for a little bit, and you'll see a difference in your driving over time, because this is keeping you consistent, and it's teaching you how to catch yourself if you're going too far around. So for example, let's throw it in the turn. You get too far. Most people will panic and start to do this kind of thing, where they go back and forth with their wheel thinking it'll straighten it out. That really never works. It's just, that's the last straw thing. But if you go in the turn too hard, catch yourself, one turn to the left, and if that doesn't work, then don't try and take anything else out. But consistency, little small movements in the wheel is going to give you the fastest laps in the 410 sprint car, in any dirt oval track. So it's going to give you half throttle, just go around half throttle, easy movements, smooth out of the turns, smooth into the turns. You don't want any big movements like this back and forth, because it's going to get you sketchy out of the front stretch or the back stretch. You need to be consistent to the turns, small movements, and consistent movements, because this is going to teach you consistency, and you need consistency to run any line on the racetrack. So the high line, you need consistency, because you can't run too high or too low any of the time. So it just teaches you consistency. And then tip number 5 is just something to remember while you are driving. Other drivers matter. Don't go out there and drive like a fool because you think it's funny. It's really not funny at all to go around and drive like an absolute idiot. Have common sense when you're driving. Think about what line you're taking and stick to it. Because you taking out other drivers is just unacceptable, because it's just not the polite thing to do at all. It's really rude, and it can really upset some people. And we want to keep this community, iRacing community, as nice and respectful as possible. So I ask you, please, 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 just be nice, hold your line, and if you do take someone out, just apologize. It's not that hard. But that's pretty much the tips and tricks to driving consistent in iRacing. So yeah. So now I'm just gonna go and show you the replay of what I was doing. So let me just go back, laps, and switch these cameras around. So in these turns, let's go to this. Wait. Let's do chase. So going into these turns, as you see these laps, which was half throttle laps, I was sticking below the cushion and in between the cushion and the slick. I was going half throttle, consistent, smooth out of the turns. I think I was showing you here what it's like to get loose out of the turns. Consistent small tire movements to keep your car as smooth out of the turns as possible. And front stretch, you just want to throw your car into the turn slightly and keep your car as straight as possible, as weird as that sounds, as straight as possible, meaning like not squirrely in the turns in the front stretch. But as you know, sprint car racing in this game is tough, and you're probably here to try to get better. So practice the tips I told you. Figure out what car setup you like. There's a bunch of videos out there going over car setups and everything like that. So find what you like, what works best for your driving style, and have fun racing out there. I appreciate you watching. Please consider subscribing, because I'm trying to get monetized eventually, hit that 1,000 subscriber goal, and just I'm trying to help people out. So if you could be kind enough to leave a like and subscribe, that would mean a lot to me. And have an amazing rest of your day, night, whatever it is, wherever you are. And thank you for watching. See you guys.